Imagine you and your partner are, in the kitchen.
Right.
It's late, you're both just totally exhausted, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you are in this massive screaming match.
Over absolutely nothing.
Exactly. Like you are absolutely convinced you're fighting because they loaded the dishwasher wrong, or maybe because of some slightly passive-aggressive comment they made about your mother.
Which happens to the best of us.
Oh, totally. And you think it's a communication breakdown, right? You think, oh, we just don't know how to talk to each other anymore.
But what if that fight actually has nothing to do with the dishwasher?
Right. What if the real culprit is, like, the microscopic heavy metals in the tuna you ate for dinner last night? Or the phthalates in your body wash?
Or a sluggish liver that is physically incapable of filtering out yesterday's stress hormones.
It's wild to think about. But that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We have a massive stack of sources for this deep dive. Research on liver and kidney detox pathways, literature on the alkaline diet, environmental endocrinology.
And a really comprehensive program on relationship rejuvenation.
Yeah. And we are framing this not just as an informational breakdown, but as an exclusive wellness coaching session designed specifically for you, the listener, and your romantic partner.
Because it completely upends the traditional approach to relationship counseling.
It really does. I mean, we are so conditioned to treat intimacy and, relationship friction as an entirely psychological equation.
You go to a therapist, you map out your attachment styles, you pinpoint a childhood trauma.
Right. And you try to just talk your way out of the conflict.
But we are completely ignoring the biological vessel that houses all those emotions. As a coach stepping into this role for the two of you, my goal is to really bridge that gap between functional physiology and emotional intimacy.
Which is such a missing link. So we are exploring the radical, evidence-based idea that the health of your relationship is inextricably tied to the toxic load of the individuals in it.
Exactly. We are going to look at how environmental toxins, impaired detoxification organs, and chronic inflammation are the hidden saboteurs behind diminished patience, lost empathy, and dwindling libido.
And more importantly, we're going to lay out a comprehensive phased roadmap to help you and your partner clear those physical roadblocks together.
It's all about teamwork.
But I want to start by challenging this core premise because honestly, it sounds almost absurd on its face.
I get that a lot, yeah.
Like, how does a literal physical organ like the liver dictate whether or not I have the patience to listen to my partner vent about their day? What is the actual mechanism connecting a distressed organ to a short temper?
Okay, let's break down the cellular mechanics of what your liver is actually doing at any given moment.
Let's do it.
So, it is responsible for over 500 distinct functions. But for our purposes, we really need to look at how it processes hormones.
Okay, hormones.
Your liver is responsible for conjugating, which basically means deactivating and packaging up excess hormones so they can be excreted from the body.
So it's like the recycling center.
Very much so. And that includes reproductive hormones like estrogen, but crucially, it includes stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
Oh, wow. So when we experience stress, say, a brutal day at work, our adrenal glands pump out cortisol to deal with it.
Right, you're in fight or flight.
And once the stressful event is over, it's the liver's job to sweep those chemicals out of the bloodstream.
Precisely. The liver binds those stress hormones to other molecules, making them water-soluble so they can be removed via bile or urine.
Okay, that makes sense.
But consider what happens when the liver is overwhelmed. If you are consuming heavily processed foods, alcohol, or absorbing environmental chemicals, your liver's metabolic pathways are totally occupied.
Because it's trying to neutralize those acute toxins first.
Exactly. It doesn't have the bandwidth or even the available enzymes to process the cortisol.
Wait, so the cortisol just stays there? It doesn't naturally degrade on its own?
It recirculates. The biological half-life of that cortisol is artificially extended.
That is terrifying.
It is. So you walk in the door at 6:00 p.m., the stressful workday is over. But because your liver is sluggishly trying to process, say, a fast food lunch,
That cortisol is still pumping through your veins at 8 p.m.
yes, your nervous system is physically locked in a sympathetic fight-or-flight state.
That explains so much. You are sitting on the couch, objectively safe in your living room, but biologically, your body thinks it's being hunted by a tiger.
Exactly.
Of course you are going to snap at your partner for breathing too loudly. Your baseline anxiety is just elevated by these unprocessed chemical signals.
And that completely destroys the natural reservoir of patience required for intimacy. You simply don't have the buffer.
Wow. Okay, so that's the liver. But we also have to look further down the elimination chain to the kidneys, right?
We do. Your kidneys are filtering about half a cup of blood every single minute.
Half a cup a minute. That's incredible.
It's a massive volume. They are separating toxins from nutrients and maintaining the precise alkaline pH of your blood.
So if the liver is the chemical processing plant, the kidneys are the final filtration grate before the waste actually leaves the house.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. And when you have a high toxic burden, the blood becomes more acidic.
Which is bad.
Very bad. The kidneys have to work overtime, pulling alkaline minerals like calcium and magnesium from your bones and tissues just to buffer that acidity.
Wait, it steals minerals from your bones?
Just to keep your blood pH stable? Yes. This massive, invisible expenditure of energy leads to profound systemic fatigue.
I mean, I'm exhausted just hearing about it.
Right. When you are operating with the toxic kidney burden, you are fundamentally cellularly drained.
Which means the whole concept of, putting in the work for your relationship, active listening, empathetic communication, physical affection,
It becomes impossible.
because you simply lack the biological battery power to execute those behaviors. You're running on empty.
Exactly. But let's take it a step deeper into the neurology of empathy.
Okay, I love this part from the sources. The gut-brain axis.
Yes, the sources highlight how opportunistic parasitic infections, like a candida yeast overgrowth, literally disrupt our neurochemistry.
Which sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It does. Your gut is responsible for producing the vast majority of your body's neurotransmitters. That includes serotonin and dopamine, which dictate your emotional resilience.
Wait, a yeast overgrowth in the digestive tract can physically alter how much serotonin my brain receives?
It does more than alter it. It actively hijacks the communication pathway. The gut and the brain communicate constantly via the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve, right, like an information highway.
Exactly. When you have poor gut health or the pathogenic overgrowth, the inflammation damages the gut lining.
Okay.
And pathogens like Candida actually release neurotoxic byproducts, such as acetaldehyde.
Acetaldehyde, that's a big word.
It's a nasty chemical. It interferes with the synthesis of those neurotransmitters. You are literally starved of the biochemical components required to feel joy, focus, and empathy.
You physically cannot feel empathetic toward your partner because a yeast in your stomach is blocking the signal. That is wild.
It is.
I want to circle back to something we mentioned earlier, though. You talked about the liver breaking things down and the kidneys filtering them out.
Right.
What happens when that process creates its own toxic byproducts?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the notes on protein metabolism and ammonia, and this seems like a massive missing link for couples dealing with brain fog.
Oh, it is arguably one of the most misunderstood aspects of cognitive decline and mood swings.
Really? Tell me about it.
When your body metabolizes protein, a natural byproduct is ammonia, which, as you probably know, is highly toxic.
Yeah, I use it to clean my floors. I don't want it in my blood.
Exactly. A healthy liver uses a pathway called the urea cycle to convert that toxic ammonia into urea, which is a benign substance the kidneys can easily filter out.
But if the liver is compromised by a toxic load, like we were just talking about, that conversion process slows down.
It slows down drastically,
Right.
and the ammonia begins to accumulate in the bloodstream.
And here's where it becomes a relationship issue, right?
Yes, because ammonia can cross the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, wow.
Once it enters the brain, it causes astrocytes, which are the cells that support your neurons, to swell. This creates widespread neuroinflammation.
We're literal toxic fog.
A literal, measurable fog. It manifests as a heavy, sluggish cognitive impairment. Your processing speed drops. You become deeply irritable and confused.
And the tragedy is, couples rarely recognize this as a physiological crisis.
Never.
One partner starts acting distant, forgetful, and just easily frustrated, and the other partner internalizes it. They think, oh, we are falling out of love.
When in reality, the partner's brain is simply swimming in unprocessed metabolic ammonia.
This makes me question every minor disagreement I've ever had. Like, was I mad or did I just have ammonia in my brain?
It's a valid question.
We also have to address the physical aspect of intimacy, because the sources go into detail about chronic inflammation and how it directly restricts libido and physical arousal.
Yes, this is a huge component.
And they specifically point to heavy metals.
Heavy metal toxicity is a pervasive issue that severely impacts relationship vitality. We are talking about exposure to mercury.
Which can come from old dental amalgam fillings, right?
Mm.
Or consuming high mercury fish like tuna and swordfish.
Exactly, as well as lead and cadmium from environmental pollution.
But how does a heavy metal actually stop someone from feeling physically aroused? I mean, what's the connection?
It comes down to cellular energy and vascular health. Mercury compounds, for example, have a high affinity for binding to sulfur groups in proteins.
Okay, chemistry class. Stay with me.
Oh, keep it simple. They specifically bind to and inhibit an enzyme called ATPase. This enzyme is the primary driver of ATP production.
And ATP is the energy, right?
Yes, it's the fundamental energy currency of every single cell in your body.
So the mercury acts like a wrench thrown into the gears of the cell's power plant.
That's a perfect analogy. The cell's ability to produce energy drops precipitously. You are tired because your cells are literally suffocating. Furthermore, these heavy metals, along with the oxidative stress from processed foods, severely damage the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels.
And arousal, whether we are talking about male or female physiology, is entirely dependent on healthy, rapid blood flow.
It requires flexible, clear blood vessels that can rapidly dilate.
Right.
When oxidative stress damages that endothelial lining, the body responds by laying down plaque to patch the damage.
Like putting spackle on a cracked wall.
Exactly. And the blood vessels become stiff and narrow. This endothelial dysfunction is the direct physical precursor to erectile dysfunction in men.
And for women.
A severe dampening of physical sensitivity and natural lubrication. You cannot force a physical connection when the vascular highways required to achieve it are essentially boarded up.
Okay, the picture is painted, and it is honestly a little terrifying.
It can be daunting to hear all at once.
We are looking at a landscape where our patience is eroded by recirculating cortisol, our empathy is blocked by neurotoxic yeast, our minds are clouded by ammonia, and our physical arousal is restricted by stiffened blood vessels.
That's the reality for a lot of couples.
So as a wellness coach, how do you even begin to guide a couple out of this metabolic swamp?
Well, the cardinal rule of any coaching protocol is that you cannot detoxify a system that is still actively being poisoned.
That makes total sense.
We have to address the influx first. That means making profound dietary and environmental shifts. We have to eliminate the primary offenders before we can stimulate repair.
Right. Looking at the elimination list provided in the sources, it's the usual suspects, but from specific caveats. Fried foods, refined sugars, wheat, dairy, corn, and soy.
The classics.
But sugar is highlighted as particularly insidious here, specifically because of how it interacts with the gut pathogens we just discussed.
Oh, sugar is not just empty calories. It is the preferred fuel source for opportunistic pathogens like Candida.
And this is where the behavioral hijacking occurs, isn't it?
Yes. When you have a Candida overgrowth, it doesn't just passively consume the sugar you eat. It actively manipulates your behavior to ensure its own survival.
Wait, are you saying the yeast in our gut controls our cravings?
Absolutely.
That is disturbing.
The microbes release peptides that travel up that vagus nerve to your brain, mimicking your own hunger hormones.
So it tricks you.
It tricks you. They induce relentless, intense cravings for refined carbohydrates. You think you're just having a moment of weakness or a sweet tooth, but you are actually experiencing a parasitic demand for fuel.
And the relationship fallout from that is the blood sugar roller coaster.
Yes. You eat the sugar, feeding the pathogen. Your blood glucose spikes, prompting a massive release of insulin, which then crashes your blood sugar an hour later.
And you get hangry.
Exactly. That crash triggers the release of adrenaline and cortisol to stabilize you. So, because of a parasitic sugar craving, you are thrown right back into that irritable, anxious, fight-or-flight state.
Ready to snap at your partner over absolutely nothing.
Over the dishwasher again?
Always the dishwasher. Okay, we have to talk about alcohol too. The sources are uncompromising on this.
They are very strict about it.
Which is tough because so much of our cultural idea of romance involves, splitting a bottle of wine over dinner or having a cocktail to unwind together.
Yeah.
How does alcohol physically block this relationship rejuvenation?
It comes down to biological triage.
Triage.
Yes. When you consume alcohol, your liver prioritizes the metabolism of ethanol above all other functions because ethanol and its byproduct acetaldehyde are highly toxic.
So it drops everything else it's doing.
It drops the conjugation of those stress hormones we talked about. It drops the urea cycle.
It's all hands on deck for the alcohol.
Furthermore, alcohol drastically spikes blood sugar and suppresses the function of your white blood cells. Just a couple of drinks can depress your immune response for up to 24 hours.
Wow, 24 hours from just 2 drinks.
Yes. This makes your body highly susceptible to systemic inflammation. If you are trying to lower the inflammatory burden to restore patience and blood flow, introducing a cellular toxin like alcohol forces your body to take 3 steps backward for every step forward.
It's just not worth it if you're trying to heal.
No, it's not.
And the toxic burden isn't just coming from the pantry or the liquor cabinet. The sources place a huge emphasis on endocrine-disrupting chemicals, or EDCs.
This is a critical area for couples to audit together. EDCs are ubiquitous.
We're talking about hidden environmental toxins that mimic or disrupt our natural hormones, right?
Exactly. We are looking at dioxins found in conventional animal fats, microplastics leaching from bottled water and synthetic clothing.
Which are everywhere now.
Everywhere. Plus phthalates, which are used as binding agents in almost all commercial personal care products, lotions, and perfumes. And even chlorine and chloramines used to treat municipal tap water.
I want to pause on the shower water, actually, because the idea that taking a hot shower together could be toxic is a really difficult pill to swallow. How does chlorine in tap water disrupt hormones?
Well, when you take a hot shower, the chlorine in the water vaporizes into chloroform gas.
Chloroform, like in the movies.
Same stuff. And because your pores are open from the heat, you absorb this gas directly into your bloodstream and you inhale it into your lungs.
That sounds awful.
It is. Chlorine is a halogen, meaning it competes directly with iodine in your body.
And the thyroid needs iodine to function.
Exactly. The chlorine displaces the iodine, suppressing your thyroid function. A sluggish thyroid leads to profound fatigue, unexplained weight gain, and a depressed mood.
All romance killers.
Precisely. Simultaneously, chemicals like phthalates in your body wash mimic estrogen in the body, leading to estrogen dominance.
Which causes mood swings.
Severe mood instability, and it significantly lowers libido in both men and women.
Okay, I have to introduce some friction here because I'm putting myself in the shoes of the listener right now.
Please do.
If I go home tonight, throw away my partner's favorite snacks, dump their expensive phthalate-filled shampoo in the trash, and tell them we can never split a bottle of wine again, that is not going to foster intimacy.
No, it is not.
That is going to start a literal war in my house. How does a wellness coach guide a couple through this without it feeling like some authoritarian punishment?
That is the most common pitfall I see. If one partner becomes the detox dictator, it breeds massive resentment.
Detox dictator, I love that.
It happens so often. The pivot here is framing this as a shared adversarial challenge against an external threat. You are not fighting each other.
You are teaming up.
You are teaming up to fight the environmental toxins that are stealing your shared vitality.
The sources provide a really interesting case study regarding this dynamic. A woman named Janice.
Oh, Janice's situation is a perfect example of what not to do.
Walk us through it.
So she had identified several severe food intolerances. Wheat made her deeply congested, and raw garlic and onions caused intense gastrointestinal inflammation and bloating.
Okay, pretty common intolerances.
Very common. But her husband loved cooking heavy Italian dishes featuring exactly those ingredients.
Oh, no. And instead of communicating this, Janice tried to be a good sport. She ate the food to avoid an argument, just to protect his feelings.
But look at the physiological result of that choice. She eats the trigger foods, her GI tract becomes severely inflamed, she is in physical pain, and her body is diverting all its energy to manage the immune response in her gut.
Consequently, she has zero energy or desire for physical intimacy.
None. By trying to protect the emotional surface of the relationship, she completely destroyed the physical foundation of it.
That is such a profound lesson. The lesson there is that managing these intolerances and avoiding toxins is a dual responsibility.
It has to be.
If my partner gets inflamed by gluten, it is my job as a supportive partner to ensure our kitchen is a safe zone. The solidarity is what creates the romance.
Precisely. When you audit your home together, installing a shower filter, switching to natural cleaning supplies, clearing out the processed foods, it requires communication and compromise.
You are actively building a sanctuary.
That shared purpose is incredibly bonding.
Okay, let's assume the couple has successfully audited the house. The bad stuff is gone. Now we have to rebuild. How do we stock the kitchen with foods that don't just avoid harm, but actively repair the metabolic damage we've spent the last 20 minutes outlining?
This is where we introduce the concept of molecular couples therapy.
Molecular couples therapy. I love the sound of that.
It's powerful stuff. We are going to prioritize superfoods that specifically target the liver, the kidneys, and endothelial function. Let's start with the liver cleansing powerhouses. Cruciferous vegetables.
Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower. What is the specific mechanism here? Why are these better than, say, a carrot?
It comes down to a specific sulfur-rich compound called sulforaphane, which is highly concentrated in these vegetables, particularly in broccoli sprouts.
Sulforaphane.
Sulforaphane acts as a powerful genetic signal. It enters your cells and activates a protein pathway called NRF2.
And what does NRF2 do?
It is the master regulator of your body's antioxidant response. When sulforaphane activates NRF2, it tells your DNA to drastically ramp up the production of phase 2 detoxification enzymes in the liver.
Wait, phase 2 enzymes.
Yes, these are the exact enzymes responsible for binding to those heavy metals and circulating stress hormones so they can be safely excreted.
You are literally turning on the liver's specialized cleanup crew.
That is exactly what you're doing.
That is incredible. And what about the kidneys and blood flow? Because the sources heavily feature beets.
Beets are foundational for cardiovascular and renal health. They contain incredibly high levels of dietary nitrates.
Not the synthetic nitrates they pump into hot dogs.
No, correct. These are natural plant nitrates. When you consume beets, the beneficial bacteria in your mouth actually convert those nitrates into nitrates.
In your mouth.
Yes, the digestion starts there. And as they travel to the stomach and enter the bloodstream, they are converted again into nitric oxide.
We mentioned nitric oxide earlier regarding arousal.
Yes, we did. Nitric oxide is a potent vasodilator. It signals the smooth muscle cells lining your blood vessels to relax.
So the vessels widen?
The vessels widen, blood pressure drops, and circulation drastically improves. The sources note that the vasodilation from beets can increase blood flow to the kidneys by up to 26%.
26%.
It's massive. It allows them to filter out that acidic waste much more efficiently. And, critically for intimacy, that identical mechanism of vasodilation is what physically enables sexual arousal.
Let's build out a specific coach-approved grocery list for a couple looking to implement this. What else goes in the cart?
You need healthy fats to rebuild cellular membranes. Walnuts are excellent.
Why walnuts specifically?
They are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin E, and specific polyphenols that have been shown to reduce lipid accumulation or fat buildup in the liver.
Nice. What else?
You also want grapefruit.
Grapefruit is an interesting one. Why grapefruit?
Grapefruit contains a flavonoid called naringenin. Naringenin is fascinating because it activates another protein pathway called PPAR-alpha.
And what does that do?
It shifts the liver's metabolism away from storing fat and toward burning it. It really helps clear the liver of congestion.
Okay, I see turmeric on the list as well.
Yeah.
Is that just for general inflammation?
It is much more targeted than that, actually. The active compound, curcumin, has a hepatoprotective effect.
Hepatoprotective, meaning it protects the liver.
Exactly. It not only shields liver cells from the oxidative damage caused by heavy metals, but studies suggest it actively promotes the regeneration of damaged liver tissue.
Wow, it helps regrow it. And for a dessert option, I see dark chocolate. Please tell me that's true.
It is true. Specifically, organic dark chocolate with a very high cacao percentage.
Excellent.
The catechins and flavonols in cacao are powerful antioxidants that improve tissue oxygenation, specifically supporting the high energy demands of the kidneys.
I am fully on board with the chocolate, but there is one item on this list that feels a bit contradictory to me. Organic morning coffee.
I know, it surprises people.
Given everything we've said about stress and cortisol, doesn't the caffeine in coffee spike cortisol?
It is a delicate balance, for sure. Excessive caffeine certainly taxes the adrenal glands. However, coffee contains specific compounds called deuterpenes, namely cafestol and kawale.
Okay.
Research indicates that these deuterpenes have a profound anti-inflammatory effect specifically on liver tissue. They can help reduce liver stiffness and protect against cellular damage.
So it's medicinal, in a way.
Yes, but the key is that it must be organic to avoid adding pesticide toxins to the liver's workload. And it must be consumed only in the morning so the caffeine does not disrupt the detox that happens during sleep.
The phrase you used earlier, molecular couples therapy, makes so much sense when you break it down like this.
It really is therapy on a cellular level.
If a couple shares a dinner of roasted Brussels sprouts, a beet salad with walnuts, and a piece of dark chocolate, they aren't just eating healthy. They're actively lowering the cortisol that makes them snap at each other.
And they are physically widening the blood vessels required for physical intimacy. They are building the biological infrastructure for a romantic evening.
It shifts the dynamic entirely. But eating the right foods is only the chemical side of the equation, isn't it?
That's right. We are neutralizing the toxins and priming the waste for removal. But the body still requires a mechanical action to physically push that waste out.
It does not just evaporate.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Which brings us to the lymphatic system and the necessity of shared daily habits. Let's explore the mechanics of lymph because it is so radically different from our cardiovascular system.
It is entirely different. Your cardiovascular system has a massive muscular pump that forces blood through your veins at a relatively high pressure.
Right, it's automatic.
But the lymphatic system, which is a vast network of vessels and nodes responsible for carrying cellular waste and immune cells, has no central pump. None.
Wait, none. So how does the fluid move? If it's carrying all this neutralized waste away from the organs, how does it avoid just stagnating?
It relies entirely on the mechanical contraction of your surrounding muscles, the pressure changes in your chest cavity when you breathe deeply, and gravity.
That's it, just movement.
That's it. The lymphatic vessels have tiny one-way valves. When you flex a muscle, it squeezes the vessel, pushing the lymph fluid up through the valve. When the muscle relaxes, the valve snaps shut, so the fluid can't flow backward.
I used the analogy of an engineless garbage truck earlier, but a better way to visualize it might be a manual water pump. You literally have to pull the lever, meaning you have to physically move your body to draw the water up from the well.
That's exactly how it works.
So if you spend your entire day sitting at a desk, commuting in a car, and then sitting on the couch with your partner, that lymphatic fluid simply stops moving. The cellular trash just piles up in the tissues.
Exactly. This is why our coaching protocol mandates shared physical movement. The simplest intervention is a brisk 20-minute walk together after dinner.
Just a walk.
Just a walk. The rhythmic contraction of the leg muscles acts as a powerful pump for the lymphatic system, while simultaneously aiding digestion and stabilizing blood sugar.
The sources offer some more unconventional methods too, like rebounding.
Oh, rebounding, jumping on a mini trampoline, is arguably the most efficient lymphatic exercise in existence.
Jumping up and down.
Yes. At the bottom of the bounce, the gravitational pull on your body increases. This sudden increase in G-force forces the one-way lymphatic valves open, pulling massive amounts of waste fluid through the immune nodes.
That's amazing.
Doing this together for even 10 minutes a day is profoundly effective.
There are also habits that focus on the skin, which is our largest detoxification organ. The source is mentioned an Ayurvedic morning ritual called Garshana.
Garshana, or dry skin brushing. You take a natural, stiff, bristled brush, and before you get in the shower, you firmly brush your dry skin in circular, sweeping motions.
And you always start from the extremities and move toward the heart.
Always toward the heart.
What is the physiological benefit of doing that?
It achieves three things. First, the mechanical friction directly stimulates the lymphatic capillaries lying just beneath the surface of the skin.
Okay, getting the fluid moving.
Second, it sloughs off the dead epithelial cells that can clog pores. Third, it increases microcirculation to the dermis.
Bringing blood to the surface.
Exactly. By opening those pores and increasing blood flow, you drastically improve the skin's ability to excrete toxins when you sweat.
And sweating is a major component of this protocol, specifically utilizing saunas.
Saunas are incredible for this.
If we are trying to excrete those heavy metals we talked about, the mercury inhibiting our cellular energy, how effective is a sauna?
It is unparalleled. Research shows that certain toxins, particularly heavy metals like cadmium, lead, and arsenic, as well as the endocrine-disrupting phtalates from plastics, are excreted in much higher concentrations through sweat than through urine.
The sources outline a specific, supercharged sauna protocol involving a vitamin.
Yes, they suggest combining sauna therapy with niacin, which is vitamin B3.
What does the niacin do?
Niacin creates a flush in the body by rapidly dilating blood vessels, even the tiny capillaries near the skin's surface. It also serves as a precursor to NAD, plus up a critical coenzyme that facilitates deep cellular detoxification.
So the niacin forces the trapped toxins out of the fat cells and into the bloodstream. And then the intense heat of the sauna immediately forces the body to sweat those toxins out through the freshly brushed open pores.
Exactly. You are weaponizing your body's natural cooling system to detox. And to tie this back to the relationship, these are not just clinical protocols.
Right. How does this help the couple connect?
These are opportunities for deep, vulnerable connection. Brushing your partner's back, sitting in the quiet heat of a sauna together, or offering a therapeutic massage with essential oils to further stimulate lymphatic flow. These are acts of profound mutual care.
You are physically and emotionally holding space for one another's healing.
Beautifully said.
I love that reframing. It turns a health regimen into an intimacy exercise.
Yeah.
But we have to address the elephant in the room here.
Let's do it.
We can eat all the broccoli sprouts in the world, and we can sweat in the sauna every single day. But if our minds are trapped in a cycle of anxiety, the body won't heal.
No, it won't.
Let's pivot to the mental and emotional detox. The sources make a bold claim that emotional stress is a physical toxin.
We need to fundamentally dismantle the idea that mental stress and physical toxins are handled differently by the body. They are not.
Really? No difference.
If you are chronically stressed, say from doom scrolling negative news or harboring unspoken resentments toward your partner, your brain perceives a threat. It activates the HPA
The
axis.
hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis,
Exactly.
which floods the system with cortisol.
Yes. And, as we established earlier, elevated cortisol shuts down the digestive system, it suppresses the immune system, and it halts the body's natural repair mechanisms.
Wow.
The physiological inflammatory cascade caused by a toxic, ruminating thought pattern is identical to the inflammatory cascade caused by eating a candy bar loaded with artificial dyes.
The body doesn't care if the threat is a predatory animal, a chemical in your shampoo, or a stressful text message. It reacts with the exact same chemical defense mechanism.
Precisely. This is why a digital detox unplugging from the comparison trap of social media and the constant barrage of outrage-inducing news is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity.
You just have to put the phone down.
You cannot achieve the parasympathetic state required for digestion, detoxification, and sexual arousal if your nervous system is constantly being hijacked by your smartphone.
And this chronic mental stress absolutely wrecks our sleep, which brings us to one of the most fascinating mechanisms covered in the sources, the glymphatic system.
This is groundbreaking science.
I think most people assume sleep is just the body turning off for a few hours. But the brain is actually incredibly active in a very specific way.
The discovery of the glymphatic system is relatively recent and completely changes how we view sleep. The brain does not have conventional lymphatic vessels.
Right.
Instead, it relies on a highly specialized plumbing system that is managed by glial cells, the support cells of the brain.
How does it work? How does the brain clean itself?
It only happens during deep, slow-wave sleep. When you enter deep sleep, the glial cells actually shrink in size by up to 60%.
60%. That's a huge change.
It creates wide physical spaces between the brain cells. Cerebrospinal fluid, the clear liquid surrounding your brain and spinal cord, is then pumped rapidly through these widened spaces.
It's like a high-pressure power wash for the brain tissue.
That is exactly what it is. The cerebrospinal fluid flushes out all the metabolic waste products that accumulated during your waking hours of intense cognitive function.
Just washes it all away.
Yes. The most notable of these waste products is amyloid beta, a neurotoxic protein closely linked to cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease.
So if you are staying up late, stressing over an argument with your partner, or doom scrolling, you are depriving yourself of deep sleep.
Which means the glial cells never shrink. The power wash never happens. You wake up the next morning, and your brain is quite literally saturated in the toxic metabolic trash from the day before.
And we wonder why we wake up irritable, unable to focus, and completely devoid of empathy for our partners. We are operating a clogged machine.
Exactly.
What can couples do to ensure they actually achieve the state required for this glymphatic wash?
We have to implement active downregulation strategies before bed. Journaling is highly recommended.
Just writing things down.
Yes. The act of writing down racing thoughts or creating a concrete to-do list for the next day physically moves the cognitive burden out of your working memory and onto the paper.
It's a signal to the nervous system that the threat has been cataloged and it is safe to power down.
Exactly. The sources also emphasize the practice of decentering through mindfulness.
I found this concept incredibly relevant to relationship dynamics. Can you explain the mechanics of decentering?
Decentering is a psychological shift where you train yourself to observe your thoughts and emotions as passing events rather than absolute truths.
Give me an example of how that works in an argument.
When a partner makes a comment that triggers you, the natural untrained response is immediate fusion. You become the anger, and you lash out defensively.
The gap between the trigger and the reaction is practically zero.
Exactly. Decentering creates a mental buffer. You observe the sensation of anger rising in your body, you acknowledge it, but you do not immediately act on it.
You just watch it happen.
You recognize that the anger is just a chemical release, not a mandate for a fight. In a relationship, this buffer is the definition of patience.
But you can only maintain that buffer if your brain is cleared of toxic waste and your liver isn't drowning in cortisol.
Right. You need the physical capacity to do the mental work.
Okay, we have the complete picture now. We understand the physiological mechanisms of the liver, kidneys, and gut. We know the dietary and environmental enemies.
We do.
We have the superfoods, the lymphatic habits, and the neurological necessity of sleep. Now, we are going to synthesize all of this into the ultimate wellness coach playbook.
Let's bring it all together.
The sources outline a highly structured, radical 30-day couples detox plan.
This is where we demand a high level of commitment. We are moving from theory into structured action. The 30-day plan is designed to simultaneously clear the physical pathways and reset the emotional dynamics of the relationship.
And it begins with the induction phase.
Yes, step 1, physically kickstarting the cellular detox. And the sources offer a fascinating protocol here, a 1 to 3 day apples and clean water mono diet.
A mono diet involves eating only one specific food, right, to eliminate the digestive burden of breaking down complex meals.
Exactly. And we choose apples for a very specific biochemical reason: pectin.
What makes pectin so special?
Pectin is a complex carbohydrate, a type of soluble dietary fiber found heavily in the skin and pulp of apples. In the digestive tract, pectin has a unique molecular structure that acts like a highly selective sponge.
A sponge for what?
It can physically bind to heavy metals, like the lead and mercury we discussed earlier, as well as radioactive isotopes and other environmental toxins, trapping them in the gut so they can be safely excreted in stool.
It prevents the toxins from being reabsorbed through the intestinal wall.
Precisely. Furthermore, by drastically restricting caloric complexity for a couple of days, you trigger a metabolic state called autophagy.
Autophagy, literally self-eating. That sounds alarming.
It sounds alarming, but it's the body's supreme housekeeping mechanism. When cells are deprived of a constant influx of nutrients, they begin to scavenge for energy internally.
What are they eating?
They utilize lysosomes to hunt down and digest damaged organelles, misfolded proteins, and intracellular pathogens. They clean house.
Wow. Now, a 3-day apple fast sounds intense. If a couple isn't quite ready for that, the sources suggest simple time-restricted eating.
Yes, committing to an 8 to 12-hour fasting window daily, which largely overlaps with your sleep schedule.
So basically just skipping late-night snacks.
Right. It still provides the digestive system with the necessary break to initiate a mild level of autophagy and focus energy on repair rather than digestion.
Okay, that is the physical induction.
Yeah.
But the core of this 30-day plan, and the part I suspect listeners will find the most shocking, is the sex detox.
This is the controversial part.
The protocol demands that couples take all sexual activity completely off the table for 30 days and 30 nights.
It is a radical intervention, but it is deeply necessary for couples who are feeling disconnected.
Why is it necessary?
Over time, especially in a toxic or chronically stressed state, sex often becomes burdened with expectations. It becomes a chore, a point of contention, or a source of profound performance anxiety.
The natural infatuation just fades.
And the brain's dopamine and norepinephrine levels, the chemicals that drive anticipation and desire, plummet.
I have to challenge this on behalf of the listener, though.
Hmm.
If a couple is already feeling distant and they are struggling with intimacy, how does imposing a month-long ban on physical connection help?
It seems backwards, I know.
Doesn't that just codify the distance and make them feel more like roommates?
It's a valid fear, but the neurology tells a different story. When you have unlimited access to a stimuli, even a positive one, your brain's dopamine receptors downregulate. They become less sensitive to the reward. By imposing a hard boundary and taking sex completely off the table, you are starving those dopamine and oxytocin receptors.
You are forcing them to upregulate.
Exactly. They become highly sensitized again. You are removing the heavy pressure of performance, which immediately lowers cortisol.
That makes sense.
And by making sex forbidden, you are artificially reintroducing the psychological thrill of the undiscovered. You have to allow the field to lie fallow for a season so the soil can regain its nutrients.
You are creating the space for genuine, spontaneous desire to rebuild.
You hit the nail on the head.
That makes profound biological sense. But they aren't just twiddling their thumbs for 30 days, right? During this abstinence period, the sources introduce a psychological framework called the reorder method. Let's walk through this step by step.
Reorder is a structured tool for self-reflection and decoupling trauma from intimacy. During the 30 days, both partners are journaling and applying this acronym.
Let's start with the O.
O stands for observe. You must objectively observe your past and present reactions to intimacy without judgment.
Then R, recognize.
Recognize behavioral patterns. Are there specific types of touch or specific tones of voice that instantly trigger an anxiety response in your body?
And the third step, D, seems to be the heavy lifting. Decouple.
decoupling learned trauma responses from current triggers. This is the hardest work. To illustrate this, let's dive deeply into the case study of Shelley from the source material.
Shelley's story is a perfect encapsulation of this mechanism.
Shelley was in a loving, safe relationship, but she realized that whenever her partner approached her for physical affection, even a simple hug from behind while she was at the sink, she felt a sudden, intense wave of physiological panic.
Her heart rate would spike, her chest would tighten.
Yes, and she felt an overwhelming urge to emotionally dissociate and physically pull away.
Her body was launching a massive stress response to an act of love.
Because she applied the reorder method, she was able to figure out why. She observed the panic and recognized the pattern. She traced that specific sensation back to a previous, deeply emotionally abusive relationship. In her past, unexpected touch was a prelude to manipulation or control. Her nervous system had mapped that trauma directly onto the physical sensation of touch.
So even though her current partner was safe, her amygdala didn't know the difference. The physical touch triggered the exact same cortisol flood as the historical abuse.
Precisely. So Shelley had to do the conscious work of decoupling. When her current partner touched her and the panic rose, she had to mentally interrupt the circuit.
She had to actively remind her nervous system, I am in a new environment. This touch does not mean danger. I am safe.
Exactly. Which brings us to the E and the final R. Engage and regulate.
Engage in healthy, self-soothing behaviors.
Yes. Instead of pulling away silently, Shelley learned to communicate the trigger. She would ask her partner to simply hold her hand instead of embracing her, allowing her to ground herself.
By doing this, she learned to regulate her nervous system.
Keeping herself in a parasympathetic state rather than fleeing into fight or flight.
It is exhausting, brave work. You are simultaneously brushing your skin to move lymphatic fluid, eating cruciferous vegetables to clear liver pathways, and actively rewiring your brain's trauma circuits.
It is a total system overhaul.
Which brings us to the end of the 30 days. The liver's conjugation pathways are unblocked. The systemic inflammation has plummeted. The heavy metals are being actively excreted.
The brain's dopamine receptors are highly sensitized, and emotional traumas have been identified and decoupled.
The slate is clean. The foundation is poured. But how do we transition back into physical intimacy without immediately falling into the old toxic ruts?
This is the rejuvenation phase. The absolute golden rule here is incremental reintroduction.
Go slow.
Think of it like breaking a fast. If you haven't eaten for 3 days, you don't immediately eat a massive steak. You will make yourself violently ill.
Right, you'd be so sick.
You have to introduce intimacy with the same slow, deliberate sensitivity.
The sources outline 4 stages of rejuvenation to ensure this goes smoothly. Stage 1 is warming up.
Crucially, stage 1 happens entirely outside of the bedroom. It involves sitting down together and discussing the insights you gained from your reorder journals.
You share what you observed about your own triggers.
Yes,
Yeah.
but there is a strict parameter. You must communicate without criticism.
Why is the ban on criticism so vital here?
Because criticism is perceived by the brain as an attack. If you criticize your partner, their amygdala fires, their liver pauses detoxification, and their body floods with cortisol.
You instantly destroy the biochemical state of safety you just spent 30 days building.
Exactly. You share your vulnerabilities. You do not point out their flaws.
Once that emotional safety is confirmed, we move to stage 2. Touching to tune in.
This is strictly non-sexual foundational touch. We are talking about sitting on the couch and holding hands. A hand resting on the back of the neck. A gentle foot massage.
What's the goal here?
The absolute requirement of stage 2 is that there is zero pressure, expectation, or hidden agenda that this touch will escalate into sex.
You are simply teaching the nervous system that physical contact is safe and undemanding.
Right.
Then we advance to stage 3, touching to turn on, utilizing sensate focus exercises.
Sensate focus is a clinical technique that shifts the objective of physical contact entirely. You are exploring your partner's body without a goal.
No timeline.
No timeline and no pressure to achieve an orgasm. You are simply mapping the physical sensations, noticing the temperature of their skin, the texture, the pressure. You are staying fiercely rooted in the present moment.
We have to discuss the case study of Emily here because it highlights exactly why sensate focus is so healing.
Emily's history was incredibly common but rarely discussed. She was raised in a highly repressed household where sexuality was entirely taboo.
Right.
Consequently, her entire understanding of intimacy was absorbed from mainstream media and pornography.
Which presents a highly performative, toxic, and entirely unrealistic model of intimacy.
Because of that indoctrination, Emily viewed intimacy as a performance she had to execute to keep a partner interested. In bed, she was hyper-focused on her partner's pleasure, completely disconnected from her own body.
The source describes her as the consummate faker. She was acting out a script, completely numb to genuine physical sensation.
And the tragedy is, she thought she was doing the right thing. But the psychological toll of constantly performing creates massive internal stress.
So how did the detox help her?
During the 30-day detox, that pressure to perform was lifted. And when they reached stage 3 and utilized sensate focus, everything changed for Emily.
Because there was no goal to achieve and no climax to rush toward, the performative script was thrown out.
Yes, for the first time in her life, she was forced to simply feel.
She was able to tune into her own bodily sensations. She was rebuilding the neural pathways connecting her brain to the tactile reality of touch.
Which naturally allowed her and her partner to seamlessly transition into stage 4, touching to transcend.
Reaching an unprecedented, profoundly connected level of physical and emotional intimacy. Because the biological vessel is finally sound.
The endothelial cells are flexible and dilated, the liver is efficiently sweeping away stress hormones, the gut is producing abundant serotonin, and the nervous system is anchored in deep safety.
It is the pinnacle of the protocol. When the inflammation is gone, the hormones are balanced, and the psychological burdens are decoupled, the intimacy you experience is entirely different from the stressed, frantic connection you were settling for before.
It is. It's totally transformative.
I'm going to push back one last time, though. We are laying out a highly structured, scheduled, 4-step program for intimacy. To a lot of people, that sounds incredibly clinical.
I know it is.
Doesn't structure kill the romance? Isn't true passion supposed to be unpredictable and spontaneous?
It is the most pervasive myth in modern romance. We idolize the idea of wild, spontaneous passion. But true, joyful spontaneity cannot exist in an environment of chronic stress and physiological dysfunction.
That's a great point.
If your body is inflamed and your mind is harboring unspoken resentments, what you think is spontaneous passion is often just an anxious trauma response or a fleeting spike in dopamine that will quickly burn out.
You need a runway to take off.
Structure provides the secure runway. The dietary rules, the morning brushing routines, the scheduled detoxes, they build an unshakable foundation of absolute trust and biological health.
And once that foundation is utterly solid, the structure falls away. And true spontaneity naturally arises because the system is finally healthy enough to support it.
Exactly. You earn the spontaneity.
This has been a monumental paradigm shift. Let's summarize the journey we've mapped out today. We started by tearing down the idea that relationship friction is purely psychological.
We explored how a sluggish liver fails to clear cortisol, locking us in a state of fight or flight.
We detailed how a heavy toxic burden on the kidneys drains our systemic energy, and how opportunistic gut pathogens like Candida actively hijack our neurochemistry, stealing the serotonin and dopamine required for empathy.
We confronted the reality of heavy metals inhibiting cellular energy and how environmental endocrine disruptors, from our shower water to our body wash, wreak havoc on our hormones and mood.
We outlined a path to recovery, emphasizing shared responsibility. We identified liver-cleansing superfoods like cruciferous vegetables and vasodilating powerhouses like beets and walnuts to restore physical blood flow.
We committed to daily shared physical habits, brisk walking, rebounding, dry skin brushing, and sauna use to manually pump the engineless lymphatic system and sweat out the heavy metals.
We addressed the necessity of mental detox, highlighting how critical deep sleep is for the lymphatic system to literally wash the brain of toxic metabolic waste.
And finally, we walked through the 30-day couples detox plan, utilizing the physical reset of the apple mono diet, the neurological reset of a month-long sex detox, the trauma decoupling of the reorder method, and the slow, sensitive reintegration of intimacy through the 4 stages of rejuvenation.
As a wellness coach, my final guidance to you is to view your relationship and your biology as one interconnected ecosystem. You cannot heal the emotional bond while ignoring the physical vessel.
It changes the entire definition of what it means to care for your partner.
It really does. I want to leave you, the listener, with a brand new concept to ponder as we close this deep dive. We are sold to this idea that the greatest acts of romance are grand, expensive gestures, a lavish vacation, a diamond necklace, a dramatic public declaration.
But when you understand functional physiology, the definition of romance fundamentally shifts.
What if the truest, most profound expression of love is simply fiercely protecting your partner's biology? Think about what it means to manage the household one evening, handling the dog, doing the dishes, turning off the Wi-Fi specifically so your partner can get to bed an hour early.
You are doing that so their glial cells can shrink, so their cerebrospinal fluid can rush in and wash the neurotoxic amyloid beta from their brain, so their liver has the untaxed bandwidth to process the cortisol from a brutal workday.
You are giving them the physical space to heal on a cellular level, so they can wake up tomorrow not as a frazzled, inflamed version of themselves, but as the vibrant, patient, empathetic person you fell in love with. Protecting their health is protecting your shared vitality.
There is nothing more romantic than that.
Start the conversation tonight. Audit the pantry, go for a walk, and take the first step toward reclaiming your relationship from the inside out.